Okay, guys, let's go ahead and talk about it. Most people still expect Ryan Poles to make another addition to this defensive line before we get to training camp. The most popular name is Unique Ngakoue, but there are a few other options out there as well, such as Justin Houston, Calais Campbell, Carl Lawson, and Emmanuel Ogbah. Today, I wanted to quickly discuss each guy and whether or not they were a fit with the Bears and how realistic it is they would sign with us. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First up is Unique Ngakoue, the most obvious fit in my opinion. He was here last year and he could return at a discounted rate. He is recovering from an off-season ankle surgery, but he recently tweeted out videos of him working out and his ankle looks just fine to me. This guy had 7 straight years of at least 8 sacks before only getting 4 last year with the Bears. But when you go back and look at the tape, he was very close to getting a few more sacks and ended up with 34 total pressures. He also played a lot better after we acquired Montez Sweat. I would love to bring back Ngakoue on a 1 year deal and let Austin Booker learn from behind him and Sweat. I think it makes too much sense. Go ahead and get it done, Ryan Poles. Next up would be Calais Campbell, a guy who was brought up all the time in the rumor mill, but I just don't see it. Campbell is 38 years old, and he's played almost his entire career in a 3-4 defense, not a 4-3 defense like the Bears run. On top of that, most rumors suggest he's seriously considering retirement, but if he does decide to stick around and play 1 more year, he's most likely going to go back to the Atlanta Falcons, or at least another team with a system or coaching staff that he's familiar with. This is a guy at the end of his career in the NFL. No way is he going to come to the Chicago Bears to learn a new defense and work with a new coaching staff. I just don't see it. Don't buy the rumors here. I call this one fake news. Next up, though, is Justin Houston, a guy I talked about a lot last offseason. I actually thought he was a slightly better fit than Ngakoue was at that time, but if you were disappointed by Unique's stint last year with the Bears, you'd be really disappointed with how Justin Houston played with the Panthers last year. Houston is going to be 35 years old, and he might just be done in the NFL. Now, he did record 8 sacks and 11 sacks in his 2 years with Eberflus back in 2019 and 2020. And then I thought he still had something left in the tank after having 9.5 sacks with the Ravens in 2022, but he did next to nothing with the Panthers last year. In his 7 starts, he only had half of a sack, and he was much, much less productive than Ngakoue was. So again, I don't understand why some people want him over my man Unique. I just don't see it. I wouldn't rule out signing Houston to a cheap 1 year deal. I just think Ngakoue makes much more sense. But what about Emmanuel Ogbah, the 30-year-old former second-round pick who's been a defensive end most of his career, but he transitioned inside with the Dolphins last year and had 5.5 sacks. An interesting note with Ogbah is the Chiefs and Ryan Poles traded for him back in 2019. He also has 42.5 career sacks, including back-to-back 9-sack seasons in 2020 and 21. A guy who was the 32nd overall pick in 2016. He's a guy with plenty of talent, and I think that bringing him in on a 1 year deal would make sense. He had 61 total pressures back in 2021, and he's a guy who's capable of getting after the quarterback, just like Ngakoue is. If we don't end up bringing back Unique, then Ogbah makes a lot of sense. The only other free agent defensive lineman I think that's out there that really makes sense would be Carl Lawson. He's 28 years old. He had 8.5 sacks as a rookie with the Cincinnati Bengals. He then signed a big free agent deal with the Jets in 2021, but he tore his Achilles in training camp before bouncing back with 7 sacks in 2022. But what happened in 2023? He barely saw the field. And now he's a free agent who had 49 total pressures just a year ago. Another guy who can get after the quarterback. I wouldn't rule out Carl Lawson either. After that, the options are pretty limited. But if you ask me, I think it just makes too much sense to bring back Unique Ngakoue. But there are a couple of other guys on this list that make sense. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate everybody who watches. Please remember to hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.